This is it. All right, y'all hear me now? All right, here we go. Now we're welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm. We didn't have audio apparently, so what happens there is sometimes in the studio we use whenever we are playing live music and we're on Facebook, if we don't cut off the audio, it'll cut our video. Facebook doesn't like to have any kind of copyright stuff.
Oh, geez.
So apparently today it got turned off again. This happened on last Friday's show when we were live action on the radio and we didn't have any audio. So anyway, we're here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I was just doing a little shout outs to different people. And the one we just talked about was Dickie Dennis. And he was the infamous fence climber from 2014. And so you remembered him, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that going on.
Yes. So very cool. And who else we got tuned in there, Phil?
Janine is on board here. We got Rachel and Danny Tracey.
Oh, that's my daughter.
Paul Rodriguez.
Oh, cool.
Who's that, Bob?
Oh, Danny Tracey's my daughter.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
She's tuned in. She's
Yep.
going to have some something to say other than no audio, but she's back on board now.
Yeah.
Dawn Clark and
Janine may be my girlfriend Danny's sister. She's the one that owns that Jersey Cape Yachts.
Oh.
See that? We'll give them a plug, and then they can send you a check.
Yeah, there you go.
right. Jersey. What is it? Jersey Yachts.
Jersey Cape Yachts.
Jersey Cape.
Jersey
Yachts.
Cape Yachts. If you'd
Yep.
like to be a sponsor of this show, send me a message.
That's it.
Brian Galetta, he's on board too.
Yeah, that's my girlfriend's brother. He's a fireman. Thank you, Brian, for everything you do down in Florida.
For the firemen.
Yeah, where's he at in Florida? Because we got a listener from Port St. Lucie, and that's Paul, and then Scott's down in Daytona. Beer Man, you remember Beer Man?
Yep.
He's down there in Daytona.
Yeah. He's a fireman. I want to say, well, I know my girlfriend was in Fort Lauderdale, and it was south of that. I guess I'm being stupid that I don't know exactly where it is, but they sent pictures today of their front yard and street flooded.
Oh, wow.
And the kids out there on rafts.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
All right, so,
Got the Troutmans on board.
Yeah, what's
Lee,
up, Troutmans?
David, Brett.
yeah, Brett and Lee and Lee and Carolyn Troutman. So, and you're going to have to introduce yourself again because I think we had lost audio or we didn't have audio whenever you introduced yourself. So.
Yeah. I'm Phil Cavelli.
No,
I'm Bob Tracey.
Bob Tracey, yes.
Yes.
We do have Phil Cavalli in here with
And
us.
how long you been in racing, Bob?
Oh, man. Well, I've been out now I got a short stint going back in. My son-in-law, Brian Scott, was racing for Childress.
Okay.
So I'd go and just do, I don't know if you'd say advise that or whatever, but, man, I was probably in racing for 30 years.
Okay. I remember Brian Scott. It seemed like I built engines for him for a little bit.
Yeah, but you did. You did.
Yeah.
When he was at Petty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Most likely.
Yep.
So you were in like 30 years. When did you start?
Started in racing in the 70s when I was young with a guy that built super modifieds, Armand Holly. Okay. And he was in Ellington, Connecticut. And he was a neighbor, and the guy took me under his wing, and just that's how it all started way back then. And then we just kept going and going and going. And then I figured if I'm going to do this, I might as well get paid for it. I worked for Rick Fuller for a while as his crew chief, running the modifieds. And then we had some pro stocks and late models and everything. Good friend of mine, Sumner Chapman, he's got the bug now for his kids. He's got 3 boys, and now they got 3 modified. So
Wow, yeah.
yeah.
You have that.
And on it went.
How long did you work in NASCAR?
Well, I came down in the 90s to permanently stay, the early 90s. And then from there on, I worked for Rusty for about 12 years, I think it was. And then I worked for Dale Sr. Doing stuff over there at DEI. And that was probably, then after he passed, it was about enough.
So the in DEI, whenever they moved up to, let's see, I was in Charlotte with Kyle Petty and Sabco.
Yep.
And then we moved up here. We moved up to Mooresville in '95. I guess it's toward the middle to the end of the season. And after Felix built that big building there, the Taj Mahal, Garage Mahal.
Over by Iron Thunder, yep.
Yes, exactly. And then Earnhardt built his place out there.
Yep.
The big DEI complex.
Yeah, what did they called it?
Garage Mahal.
Garage Mahal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was character, that one. So
Sure.
yeah.
It was almost like I wondered if he did it to because Felix had his place and then pretty much outdid his place. Built a bigger place, a big old complex.
Are we at that point in DEI where we can ask you a question about that?
Sure, you ask me whatever you want,
I went
Phil.
there one time and I had lunch. Why don't you explain what lunch at DEI was like, Bob?
The trophy room.
Yeah, and then they had their own chef.
They did.
That worked, and I mean a chef that cooked for them lunch. They didn't have to leave if they didn't want to.
No.
Free lunch, right?
No, it's basically $5 that went on your employee card. People used to give me crap because I had a very low number on my employee card, and they're like, "Oh, you started in that," and I go, oh, "I think they just restarted numbers." But we did one time there that my daughter Danny, who's on right now, following this, her I want to say first grade class. I asked Teresa if they could go to lunch, and you know, a lot of people are like, "Well, Teresa's not going to do it," and she says, "Yeah." She goes, "Bring them up." So brought the whole class in, and they gave them, all the kids, they had the chefs come out with the big hats and everything on, and they had chicken nuggets and hot dogs, but the kids thought that was just something. And one of the teachers says to me, she goes, "We have never had so many volunteer parents want to go on a field trip than this." And it was cool. It blew it away, the food they had there and everything else. So.
Sure. I had some friends that worked over there, some of the old Sabco employees that ended up going over there. And so I remember hearing about that, but I had forgotten about that. I actually went over there and interviewed with Richie Gilmore.
Yeah, Richie's a great friend of mine.
Yeah, so I had interviewed with him, and then it wasn't okay. So I was wanting to be an engine builder, which is what I was doing at the time, or a machinist. You know, I could have went with that, but he basically offered me a job to be like in the inspection room, but the pay was a lot less. So I was like, nah, I better just stick where I'm at.
Yep.
Stay where I'm at right now. And you know, they mentioned me jacking the car and all this kind of stuff, but so then we went down to, let's see, Talladega, I believe. Well, yeah. 2004 Talladega. I think we might have had the pole. We were running really good with Kurt Busch. We ended up winning the championship that year. And so they sent me down to the racetrack, and I'm walking by the hauler, and then I see Tony Urie's hand coming out of the hauler, and he's in Junior's hauler, and he says, "Come on in, come on in here." And then I'm standing there talking to Tony, and then Richie Gilmore walks in. He's like, "See, I told you should have hired this guy. Look how good they're running down here."
Right. We would have been on the pole. We had a good speedway program, though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We did.
Hey, Janine is taking notice that you've never been so well behaved.
Yeah.
Really?
I told her I could not agree more.
I haven't thrown any kind of off jokes.
How about your best Dale Senior story? Because you were around him even while he was in the castle himself.
There was a lot of them that he did. One of the ones that probably is one of my favorite that I'll always cherish is I grew up in a farming town, and you know we always baled hay and everything, and you helped everybody out. Well, he was baling hay one day, and I guess like an idiot, I got on the back of the wagon and he'd bail away. Well, it turned into always helping him, it seems. Yeah. And one day we stopped to get a drink of water. You know, he shuts the tractor down and we're taking a drink. And I said, "Hey, I got a question, man." He said, "What's that?" And I said, "How come I can never drive the tractor?" Yeah. And he pulls those gargoyles down. He says, "Because I'm Dale Earnhardt." And I went, okay. Fact. And that was it. And that was him. Fact, and he always took care of you. That was for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. He was a good guy.
Now you were what, gas man and truck driver for Martin Truex?
No, well, I filled in a lot with Truex stuff off and on, but when for some reason, Teresa and them thought it would be when Martin came that, you know, we all got together and we worked on his car stuff and things, and it was didn't really drive much truck, but gassed a lot, and then filled in on the other cars if needed or whatever. But then we went to Cup, and then but I was more. Everybody gave me crap that the only people I had for bosses was Teresa and Dale, and they'd send me on some wild things that.
I can see that.
Yeah, there was.
Just go there. They've got something I need.
That's kind of it. We went down one year after Dale died, and Teresa says, "Hey, I need you to go down to Orlando, and there's a trailer down there that needs to be picked up." And that's when they were having the Pepsi 400 or whatever at the Speedway instead, and Coke wanted this trailer that they had built, and it was all neon lights, and it was Dale. And wherever you looked at this trailer, he followed you looking. And it was really expensive. So Teresa says that you got to get that trailer up to the racetrack, and you have to find a place to park that as close as you can to that racetrack. And I said, all right. So remember the old woman that owned the dog track next door?
Yeah.
Well, I called her up, Miss Hayes or something. I said, this is what it is. And she shot me a price, which was, I thought, there's no way Coke's going to pay that. And she goes, I want a certified check. Now, I went down. I left on like a Wednesday. This was a Thursday. We drove straight down to the tractor. I grabbed it and started coming up, and we had to park. It had to be in before the race thing started on Thursday. You know, everybody started their stuff. And it was probably $800,000, something like that, to park it there in the front where the dog track was, where it met the Speedway property.
Okay.
And she goes, I got the spot. This is how much it is. And I want a certified check. And I called the guy from Coke, and he says, I'll meet you there. And I backed it in, and she says, it's only the trailer. She goes, not the truck.
Oh, my gosh.
And I said, okay. And she goes, and it has to be out of here Sunday night. And I said, all right. But they were, Teresa goes, yep. She goes, Coca-Cola is thrilled to death with this.
Oh.
You know, why wouldn't, you know, it's like you got the big Pepsi show, and then you got Dale right there.
Right. Yes.
It was.
I also recall that weekend that there was only one Pepsi car in the field. There was like 14 Coca-Cola
Right. They
cars.
really put. Yeah.
And the Pepsi car won.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Gordon
Yeah.
Strange how it all
there,
plays down, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Imagine that. So, Phil, do we have any questions?
Yeah, I actually personally, I don't see much coming in, but I've got a bunch here.
Well, Don
I
says
want to
that.
step back to your modified days.
Yeah.
Were you ever around Richie Evans?
As a young kid, I was. When we, like I said, this Armand Holly, we'd go up to the Stafford Speedway. It was really close to where we lived. And as a young kid, when they did the payouts, and I'm sure a lot of listeners know the same thing, you know, it used to be you just went up to a window and, you know, you're inside this little, like a barn and picnic tables, and you went up to the window and you said, you know, I'm Richie Evans or whoever it is, and they'd hand them the cash, and that was it. So what the drivers would do is I'd sit at the table, and it'd be Bugsy and Richie and all of these guys, and they had those little teeny Miller Pony beers, and when I went to get that, if I did, everybody would they'd give me a beer.
Oh.
And I'd go up there and I'd come back with, you know, these little envelopes, and I'm like, here you go, here you go, here you go. And them guys were like, you know, but to me, you'd listen to those stories and it was like, holy cow, these guys were incredible, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Sure. Yeah. Very cool stuff, man. What? Go ahead.
Could you, only because I was never around him, and because I've been around drivers and David's been around, who was he like if you had to put him in a mold of someone modern day from that era on, from the 90s forward? Would you say, would he be like a Ryan Newman or
no, but I wouldn't say he was like Earnhardt. He was more of a
Dave
Rusty.
Marcus?
Well, but like Rusty, he just really knew his car, and he really knew. And Phil's laughing because I know he's going to bring up some
Nobody
Rusty.
likes Rusty.
No, everybody loves Rusty.
I know.
I mean, God, he was awesome. But he
Was
really
he
knew the car.
comical, outgoing, or was he to himself? Or?
He was somewhat. I mean, he had a good, you know, he had a good aura about himself. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he wanted with a race car. And
So did Quickie, but you didn't want to go near him.
no,
at the
Quickie was
track.
terrible. I remember meeting him years ago, and I was like, this guy isn't.
Very determined man. Which
That's what I've heard.
absolutely-
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, he was.
That's all right. That paid off.
Yeah.
Oh, it did. I mean, I know a lot of people that worked for him, and they said as long as they did their stuff, man, it was great.
know.
It's like Ray Everham. People said, you know, same thing, but Ray and I
Right.
have been friends for years, and you do
You
your
watched
stuff.
him race in the Northeast then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Rodriguez wants to know where you're actually from. What town?
Ellington, Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about one of your long haul stories when you guys go cross country or something like that? Just something, you know, I mean, I've heard so many stories about like big trees blowing in front of things during a storm across the road, or haulers tipping over, or, you know, anything that you've got like
Well,
that.
we got, when we all went down, remember when the fires were going on down at Daytona, and
Yeah, 97.
and they still sent us.
Right.
And they
I
sent
went down too. Yeah.
all the trucks, and it was myself and the captain who drove the 24, and Jim who drove the 3, and they basically directed us down off the main road into back roads with all these haulers. And there was fires on both sides of the roads. And we're like, and I kept calling. At the time, our crew chief was Robin Pemberton, and I was like, Rob, what's going on, man? And he goes, well, they're evacuating the hotels and everything. And I said, well, if they're evacuating shouldn't we be going the other way? And he said, no, NASCAR says, keep coming. And that was one. And
were you guys west of 95, or did they have you like coming down Flagler east side?
Yeah, well, no, they had us coming down the east side.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, towards the water, and we were all amazed because you couldn't sleep because the smoke was so thick and everything. And we used to all laugh when we'd go out west, and you'd get the other truck drivers would be, oh, here comes those big NASCAR haulers, and
Oh, yeah.
and they'd say, oh, yeah, we're going to run with them. We'll show them what it's all about.
Yeah.
And then we'd kick them up, and they couldn't touch us.
I know my dad drove a truck for 30 years, and my grandfather for 35 years out of Charlotte.
Yeah.
And they always talk about the NASCAR haulers.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Henry Benfield. Pick a leg
Big
player.
Henry, I remember him. He says, and he stuttered.
Yeah.
And we were talking about something. He was driving for Junior, and he was telling us a story about how he was running 100 and something with the truck up a hill.
Yeah.
When they had big steam in Junior's trucks, and
Sure.
he said the cop pulled him over, and Henry says, I said to him, you're gonna give me a ticket for going 100 miles an hour up a hill? The judge is gonna laugh. And he says the cop didn't give him a ticket, and I was like, way to go, Henry. So,
Yeah, that's great. I actually talked to Henry, I guess it's been about a month ago, but he lives here in Statesville.
he's a great guy. Still got his hair all slicked back, and
Well, we need to get him and Bostic sitting right there.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Bostic.
We had him here 2 weeks ago, right?
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Richard. He's a great guy, great friend.
Sure is.
Man, he's got
Yeah,
some
'cause
jokes.
You can
Oh, yeah,
also
he does.
pull up all these past shows and just watch them on David's YouTube channel.
Awesome.
They're all there,
Yeah.
You know,
right.
and, I mean, if
we
you
have
get
one question coming in from Dickie Dennis. Wants to know if you've got a CB handle.
used to be Zippy.
Okay.
Yep.
Good deal. Any favorite racing hangouts, like restaurants near the tracks that you really liked? Like if there was a great seafood place in Loudon, if there was great barbecue.
There was
in Kansas
always
City.
real good stuff in Loudon, but there was,
Favorite place all year that you looked forward to eating?
I always look forward to going down to Daytona. The underdeck down there,
Yeah,
I loved
deck
that.
down under,
It
yeah.
just seemed like it was always something. There was,
You ever been to Aunt Catfish's down there in Daytona?
yeah, that's another one,
good, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had a comment from Mike Bear. He said he was up at Thompson this weekend. Loved the modifieds.
Nice.
Yeah.
The modifieds are it. There's nothing better than them things.
And Dawn earlier said the tractor story was amazing.
No, there's, and Phil knows, and you know too, that Dale was, different when it was, he wasn't at the racetrack, and even still, he was a lot of fun. I mean, some of the stuff I saw him jack Rusty up one day, and I thought he was going to kill him, and he goes, I'm not that kid in that 24 car. You don't do that to me.
Right.
And I was like, whoa. And then Rusty, how he can't shut up. So Dale walks away, and he said, man, all I know, and this was in practice at Michigan, we wrecked a 3-car, and Rusty just got loose and brought him up into the wall, and he said, man, I know if you weren't there, though, Dale, he goes, I would have wrecked my car. And here comes Dale back, going to kill him.
Oh, bad.
And then it was Rusty. He always used to get him going on stuff, and I was over there one day, and over at the motor coach, and Rusty was golfing in the coach lot, just hitting golf balls. And as most know how Rusty is, he just sometimes doesn't think. And Dale says, you go over there and get your driver and tell him he hits my motor coach one more time with a golf ball, I'm going to wring his neck. And here comes a golf ball, boom, and they say, Rusty Wallace, ink on him, and he goes, you go over there. So I went over and I said, hey, this is what's going on. He goes, I ain't doing it. He goes, my ball's going this way. I said, I'm telling you, they are. He hits another one. Dale comes over and grabs his golf clubs and takes them. And Rusty goes, that's okay. I got another set in the car, in the coach. He yanks another set out. I'm like, he just doesn't stop.
Right, yeah.
It's like, man, dude,
That's priceless.
why do you got to aggravate him?
Yeah.
They were like the opposites, I guess.
They were, but they were great friends. They really were. And that really, man, when that happened, Rusty was, and it's, I remember we were running the IROC stuff down there, and Dale, they were going or whatever and coming down to the last deal, and Dale pulls out of line and takes other people with him and leaves Rusty.
Yeah.
And we were going to Sunday Money for, you know, a little party thing that night. And Rusty is screaming at Dale. He says, "What did you do that for?" And he says, "How many times have I told you, you don't have friends out there?" And he says, "You said you wouldn't do that." He goes, "I lied to you." He says, "This is what it was." And he just left him out hanging. But
Yeah.
That's right.
So Danny wants to know about the woodchuck commercial.
oh, my daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's funny. Yeah, the woodchuck commercial paid very well. It was one of the, I did quite a few commercials for Miller and did one for Motorola and a little one.
What did you do? I don't even know.
You never saw that?
Yeah, what's the woodchuck commercial?
Racing
Oh,
commercial?
geez, you guys, that's all we got to do, pull that up now. But it's a Miller Lite commercial. It was actually one of the #1 commercials Miller ever did.
Okay.
Oh, I saw
And
the
back-
promo picture with
Yeah.
all the women. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the women.
Yeah, there were a bunch of women.
No, he runs over
Weren't
Rusty.
there Miller girls, and you were standing there in a uniform, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't, that isn't, way to go, Phil. You're trying to get me in trouble now.
Sounds like
It was
it.
a glossy 8x10. It wasn't.
Yeah. But anyway, they did Rusty. It was a skit that they did. Miller put on, Miller Brewing, and it was called Back to the Future.
Okay.
And Rusty would go so fast, they'd say he'd go back in the future. So he basically runs this woodchuck over, and he has to go back in time to bring it back to life. And we're all standing around, you know, and
Yeah.
we would let him go, and it was a real woodchuck.
Yeah.
And he bit me in the arm, and I tossed this thing. And the guy the trainer, the owner, he had a fit. He was like, "You can't." And his little nose all skinned up, and I said, "The thing bit me."
Yeah.
You know, but it paid great back when the teams would allow you to get commercial money and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. Control your volume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those days. You had to sign a waiver or a disclaimer. What was it? Whatever, disclosure or
Yeah.
something. You couldn't. It wasn't that.
Well,
Anyway.
Rusty said when we were doing the commercial, he said, "Whatever you do, don't do a one lump sum." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, he helped me get the main part.
Okay.
And it was, they pay you by speaking.
Residual?
Yeah, your liking, your, you know, whatever. If you have, that's how you get paid.
Okay.
And so he ended up, he said, "This is what you're going to," he goes, "You're joining the Screen Actors Guild. And then you're going to, you know," he goes, I'll take care of all of that. They'll pay you every time it shows." Well, it played a ton, and it paid a little over $65,000
Oh, my
for the
gosh.
one commercial.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was married then, and my now ex-wife, she was trying to be a smart ass about it.
Anyways,
Sure.
now, we got another question rolling in here, Bob.
Well, no. She wanted the money, or she wanted that. She goes, "You think you're making so much on the commercial?" Because
Yeah.
my first check came and it was like $200. So she goes, "You can keep all your commercial money." And I said, "What?" And she says, "I'll just keep your whole paycheck. You can have that." Well, next thing you know, they're coming in like 18 grand and all. I'm like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
Well, at the Christmas party, my roommate on the road, Tom Hoke, his wife tells my ex, "Yeah, Bob's gotten 65 grand," and it went not very good.
There's
I'll bet.
a factual check here. Just ask Bob about me. I have destroyed him at everything. Your wonderful son-in-law, Brian Scott.
Why is he on? There's
Not only a great NASCAR driver and
don't-
married to your daughter, but
don't-
he's letting you know he's
no.
destroyed
Well,
you.
he has an imagination. My son-in-law does. We play Golden Tee and things, and it's, you know, we play for regional championships and things like that. And I do really well. He has won a couple of games. I try to help him because he's miserable to my daughter if he doesn't win.
Is that golf thing?
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the ball?
Oh, what a great game.
Never
okay.
seen
Yeah.
a picture of him
Yeah.
not smiling and your daughter smiling. I mean, come on.
Wow.
We live in paradise out there in Montana or Wyoming.
No, Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah. I
Idaho.
just got back from out there hunting. Had a great time, and
Well, that's cool.
We got a question about your. I'm so glad Danny's attending. How about the Oreo story with Dale?
oh, that was with Danny. Well, it was actually Randy Earnhardt when Danny was a baby, and when I would go to pit practice, Randy Earnhardt, which people don't know, that Dale's brother, he ran our parts department and everything else, and we had a room or a part of the parts department that was the Oreo place or Nabisco, all of this stuff in there.
Oh, wow.
And he would basically get my daughter all hyped up on candy and everything else, and
Yeah.
she would be covered, and he just marched around with her. She was a little baby, and he'd go, "Yep, she's all set." I said, "Thanks a lot, buddy. That really helps me out."
She had her a new best friend with all that.
Oh, that was every time we'd come in. He'd go, "Bring her in." And I said, "Yeah."
We was talking about Brian Scott earlier. I was telling I used to build engines for him years ago, but I don't know if he ever came in our shop back then. I don't know.
I know Jeff brought him around some, but you know.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if I met him at Bible study one time.
You probably did. He's a very spiritual kid.
Yeah, and it's been probably 5 years ago. Brian, do you remember me? Answer on here.
Oh,
Yeah, answer, Brian.
Okay, go ahead, Phil. What were you gonna say?
Brian Galata wants, or wait a minute, no.
Yeah. Bruce
Bruce
Williams.
Yeah. Is that really Bob? His hair's parted different.
Bruce Williams.
He says, give him the sign.
That's my buddy.
Give him the sign. There you go, buddy.
Yeah. It was. Hey, Bruce just had a birthday, and I want my girlfriend said, "Did you buy him a beer?" I bought him a couple.
Good.
So yeah.
Very cool.
Mike McVeigh, he says he's got number one of one fire suit card of Brian's collectible.
Does he really?
Yeah. So.
Wow. I guess we're going to turn the show into the Brian Scott show.
Jake McVeigh. So, well, speaking of Brian, who was your favorite driver that you ever worked for? I mean, actually, answer in two parts. The one that you actually worked for, and then one that you just knew hanging around in the garage.
I'd say Dale,
Yeah,
of course, and then Tim Richmond.
Oh, yes.
I met Tim through Rob and Pemberton one time, and
Please,
he's
just go right ahead with your
oh
favorite
my
Tim
gosh, that
Richmond.
guy!
My goodness,
We were at the windmill up in Martinsville, and we were getting a couple beers, and I was young, and it was before I came here, like really full time, I guess you'd say, and we walked by his room, and he's in there in boxer shorts and cowboy boots, and two women, just nothing going on, but the door's wide open. And then he come down to the bar, bought everybody beers, and hey, y'all have a good time. And he was just, I was like, that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to be like that when I grow up.
I would have really liked to have met him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I
it was
never met
before
him.
my
either.
time.
I watched him race, but
Yeah.
never met him.
Yeah, he's
Like
cool.
a rock star.
Yeah, he just had that look to him too, you know, that, and just,
he was just.
yeah, it's a shame. But
And you know something a lot of people don't realize, and I'm telling you, I saw this show. He was on a game show, and anybody I've ever mentioned this to don't remember it, but I remember I was at the beach and I was sitting there watching TV, and there was a game show, and they asked him, "Hey, so what do you do for a living?" He said, "I'm a race car driver," and that was about it.
Yep.
That's the only thing they talked about, the NASCAR. And I'm like, "That's Tim Richmond, and he's on this game show, and they're not even talking about his NASCAR or anything."
No.
So it's probably out in Hollywood, you know. And
Yeah.
I don't remember what game show it was, but he was a contestant on the show.
Probably the dating game knowing him.
It very well may have been. It was
Yeah.
something like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody else remembers it, so.
No, I vaguely remember something about it, but I don't remember.
I
you know.
remember an 8x10 I saw of him one time, and I just. Any more questions, please?
Oh, here we go, Phil.
Wait a minute. Yeah, you could talk about the.
Yeah, way to go, Phil.
Yeah,
I'm
way
glad
to
the
go,
camera's
man.
not on you.
It's your visual. It's a visual.
He's just trying.
I know he's trying to get me to go and
Yes.
and cut loose and
Well,
never
I'm kind of the instigator.
never get
so-
invited back.
Yeah.
Now, if my son-in-law was here, it would get out of hand with him.
Oh,
He's-
Fly on
yeah,
in,
he's
Brian. Fly on in, Brian.
Well, we
Yeah.
could talk about, you know, the Tim Richmond picture where it's Neil Bonnet's
yeah.
ear.
When he's got the
Well, he had something down near Neil Bonnet's ear, but that's another
Yeah.
story. There's
Well,
two different versions of that poster. Remember that?
Have you
Yeah,
seen
I'll
that?
go
There's
back to
another
this.
picture now that I found one. It was online, and it's all the drivers flipping off the camera.
Oh no! Was that?
Did you see it?
Was Phil
Oh, I
taking the
got
picture?
it. No,
I've
Phil.
never seen that.
'Cause
No,
I could see
That
that.
was before my time.
Oh,
That was
okay,
like,
gotcha.
what, about 85?
Yeah, but it was like after, and somebody said to me, "Why would they do that?" And I said, "They're just horsing around, man."
Yeah.
Because the photographer says, all right, this is for me. I need all you guys.
Yeah.
Probably so.
And they
do
it.
something. And it was
They
like
do it.
even the King, he had one out there, you know. And I'm
For
like,
years, I haunted. Ron Hornaday will tell you is that I was never able to get him flipping me the bird. It was a weird thing. And then one time I got him in that Conseco uniform.
yeah.
Yeah, for years. No.
Yeah, I tried every time I saw you, I tried to flip you off or do something, but it,
Well, yeah, we won't go into that. Anyways, so when you were just growing up, who was your favorite driver? Was it a modified driver? Was it?
yeah. Well, I mean, really, it was Armin Holly, the guy that, you know, he was, if you ever look him up, he's probably one of the most incredible super modified drivers that ever was.
Holly.
Okay.
Yep. He drove a 4-wheel drive super modified that him and Bill Height out of Ohio built this thing, and everywhere they went with it, they killed them. And the sanctioning body there outlawed it everywhere.
Okay.
And there was a couple other people that built some too. The Gibsons built some, but they were.
That's like I was out at Caraway Speedway this past weekend for the North-South showdown, which Max McLaughlin won the modified recently. The second
in Gary's
time
car.
he has been on, in a modified. But those are the ground pounders. Boy,
They are.
Really
They're the
thunder up.
stuff. Yep. The stuff that's
So,
made.
I know that some of the, like Ray Hamm raced some of those. Was that around where you were up there?
Ray did. Well, Ray was more out Wall Stadium and stuff, New Jersey and everything. Where we grew up, it was Stafford, Thompson. Oh, man, then we had all Riverside Park, things like that, all up through there. There was a lot of modified. I mean, those guys ran 5 nights out of the week, And, I mean, they made actually a living doing it. So it was pretty cool. There's a lot of people that, who you guys should get on here is Doozy. Remember Dooz?
I can't remember. Who did he drive for?
No, he was a crew member. I'm sure if there's any other crew members listening, he was a fabricator. He's very good friends with the Evans. After the show, I'll give you some links to look him up on some stuff. But hey man, and he made up a song of what was the name? We used to all fly in their planes years ago, and they were terrible. I know you're talking about the DK. BK.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he made up a song, and he used to play sax and all of this, and he made up a song of how we're going to crash. And he's on the plane and how it's a piece of crap. And he went on, and they barred him from those planes.
Oh, gosh.
He was the one, remember when Jimmy Horton left Talladega?
Yes.
Well, he was working for him, and
yeah.
ABC goes to him like nobody else is in the garage. And they go to him, and they go, what do you think happened? He goes, the dude left the speedway, man. So, yeah, he was cool. He still is.
He went out. He went out of there.
Yeah.
That was great.
So Rachel Rodman, who really helps out a lot with this show, she's got a question. What would be your favorite Victory Lane finish or story, in your career? How many times you been to Victory Lane, and which would be your favorite story?
A lot. I'd say Rusty's his 50th win was probably the big one.
Martinsville? Or?
It was Bristol.
Bristol, okay.
Yep. And then
that's right. They had a big 50, I remember.
Yeah, I think you were doing
In
pictures
the
for
Miller
it.
Lite uniform, yep.
You remember that? But yeah, and then I think one of the other ones was when Dale won the 500. I was working for somebody else, or working for two, but all the crew members lined up. You remember that, Dave?
Right, yeah, I do.
And it's like, and he basically stopped on everybody, and
99.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I ran right into Victory Lane. I wish I'd have been out there at least to photograph.
Yeah.
I was, and I'll just tell you my story, my side of that story. I was with Sterling Marlin, and I thought we really had a good chance of winning that day, and we did. We ran really good. Hindsight, we had some lifter issues, which was somewhat common back then. Stellite coming out of the cams and lifters coming apart. But I was just really mad at the end of the race. So I was like packing the stuff up and putting stuff away, and I did look around, and everybody was gone.
Right.
Yeah. So and there I was by myself. I was just like ready to go.
Yeah.
Just kind of.
You didn't realize what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it's.
I never seen such a shit-eating grin in Victory Lane.
Nope.
That look on his face was just.
He was cool.
Yeah.
He really was. He some of the stuff they used to do with, when we pushing cars like to the gas pumps, and he'd be in his and Rusty'd be in the two, and we'd be pushing, and Rusty'd be faster. Dale's going faster. Next thing the cars are, they're rubbing each other, going to the pumps, and Earnhardt is trying to cut them off, and it's like, and people are like, what is wrong with these people?
I mean, that's the thing I remember being around him and seeing him. It was like that was I'm not comparing him to God, but it was like at the racetrack, like it was like he was the man,
Yeah, he was.
And if NASCAR, if you needed, if
John Wayne.
If you had an issue with NASCAR, if you got Earnhardt on your side, then NASCAR was going to fix whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the way it was.
Yeah, he definitally carried himself. I mean, it was
like to really annoy him too.
When he'd grab you in the back of the neck or in the shoulders. That was just
or jab you in the bridge with a Sharpie.
I remember when Jeremy pushed him out of the way at Pocono. They were going, and Jeremy won the race.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy says, I've never been so scared in my life. And it went weeks. And he kept avoiding Big E.
Yeah.
And Big E said, you know, man, what's going on with him? So Big E went, and he saw Jeremy go in the bathroom, and he went over there, and he was just standing there outside. And Jeremy comes walking out. He goes, hey, man. And he said to him, he goes, you know, I just want to congratulate you. And he goes, okay. And he says, good job. And he says, after that, he goes, I'd see that 3 coming. I'm like, no way. He goes, let him go.
Yeah.
He goes, you never knew, you know? And it's
Well, that was like, I'll never forget. I think it was the week, or the 01 Iraq race. Who was it that he was battling with? And he got out of the car and he walked right back to the car, and everybody was worried that he was going to confront. Who was it? It was not a Cup driver, but it was another driver, and he went in and he was like, great race.
Yeah,
the guy
one of the Indy guys or something.
Yeah.
He had a way of, you'd see him coming. You didn't know if he was mad or not, and then he'd.
So another question I had, all your years, is there anything like memorabilia that you got, or memento or something from along the road or at tracks, or that something that you got that means something to you?
Well, you know what? We were, I don't know if you know Dick Pacer. He's Rusty's manager.
Yeah.
And everything. Well, Dick and I were talking the other day, and he said, I wish I would have kept my Japan jacket when we won the championship in Japan. And I had it was a cool thing. And I said, I gave more stuff to fans and friends and family because they enjoyed it, you know, more really. Right. And this man that we met him, we were up riding horses up in Asheville. And this lady come over, and I was working for DEI then, and she said, she goes, I understand you work for Dale Earnhardt. And I said, yeah. And she goes, would you mind talking to my husband? Well, and she probably looked 45-ish. The husband comes over, and the guy looks about 90. Oh. And I'm like, what is going on here? Well, he's terminally ill. Oh, and he was going to die, they said, in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I talked to the man for a while about things, you know, some racing stuff and everything, and just nice guy. And then I asked the wife, I said, what's going on? She goes, well, this is it. And she goes, we're going back they lived up in Boston, and they were flying out of Greensboro. And I said, so he's got 3 weeks to live. Here's Race City, USA. Yeah. You guys are coming right by here. I said, tell you what, why don't you meet me at the Hardee's that was down there in 77 and 150. And what I did is I gave him my champion's jacket and a fire suit and one of my helmets. And I set it up. He was a big Bobby Labonte fan, so I called Bobby. And Bobby was driving for Joe Gibbs at the time. And Bobby said, I'll be more than happy to meet him. Yeah. He went over there, met with them, and then we took him through DEI and stuff. And like the guy was just shot at the end of the day. Well, I said, this is my phone number. You know, you need anything ever, just call me. Well, he would call every Sunday when we're at the racetrack. So we were putting up little signs, and Matt Yoakum, you know, he goes, I'll be more than happy to get it on there. And, you know, I was wishing you the best and all of this. And he would tell all of his friends, his wife would say he'd sit there with the helmet and the jacket on, watch the race. And he ended up living about 6 months longer. Oh, wow. And he ended up, he said, because of my friends, I don't want them to steal my stuff. I want to be buried with all of that stuff that Bob gave me. And I mean, that just, to get more out of that, you know how you get cool things. I think some of the first, remember when they did the comic books? Yeah. Somehow I ended up, you know, Rusty was like, I don't want this crap. And here's these comic books that really never got published and still all sealed. And I mean, somebody will say something and I'll go, yeah, here, use that for a charity or something.
Back in 1995 at Charlotte, after the Charlotte race, a couple weeks, a letter came into Winston Cup scene from a little boy that was like about 10 years old or something like that. And he wanted to thank me because during the race, I took the time to take his little box camera from him and put it through the window where all the photographers take their pictures.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That just, I mean, I still got the letter in my office.
And you know what? We're blessed with the opportunities to be able to do stuff, and it's the little things that people, and you don't think anything of it. Right. And it's like, yeah, I could get you that, you know.
Like at Charlotte one time, I was walking through to the parking lot with Deb Williams, the editor, and a little boy come up to me. I had my scene uniform on with them goofy gray pants with a stripe down that Rob Griggs made us wear.
Yep.
And he goes, "Can I have your autograph?" And I says, "Buddy, I'm nobody." And Deb Williams stopped me on the spot. She says, "Phil Cavalli,
Yeah.
you signed that autograph because that means something to that young man."
Right.
That's right.
She was right. She was right.
Well, remember, like at Indy, they'd always, they had them all in the back of the fence there, and we'd pit, and the kids and, people, they're like, they wanted lug nuts.
Right.
And the adults would want them, and there was one guy, he was pushing the kids out of the way, so we just made a stop, and I had a handful of hot ones. And the guy sticks out his bare hand, past this kid, and I go, "Here you go, buddy." And yeah, I said, "There you go now."
I know. Yeah, that was one of the greatest things though, in working in NASCAR and getting stuff that other people just love to have.
Yeah.
One lug nut, and there we are. We could just carry however many we wanted.
Right.
And but it means so much to different people. But yeah, that's what do you got there, Phil?
Your daughter, Danny, she's great.
Jeez.
What about the painted head from Japan you got, or else the alligator head?
Yeah, the painted head we got, well, the whatever you want to call it, the head, the Japan president or emperor. Well, that's when we almost started the international war. And they gave us all the smaller ones, and they were painted for good luck. And they gave Rusty this big one. You had to color his eye in. And then after the race, after he brings us good luck, you color the other eye. Well, we go out, and it was the second race over there, or third race, in the road course. And we were checked out. I mean, we were gone.
The third race?
Yeah.
The Twin Ring Motegi?
Yes.
The circle track.
Well, no,
one.
this was a road course we did. So it was
First one,
The
Suzuka.
Suzuka circuit.
You're
was
right.
The
I'm
first
sorry.
one. Yeah.
Suzuka.
And
That was
Rusty is
96.
checked out, gone. And next thing you know, we blow up.
Oh.
And I mean,
okay.
he had, when I say gone, he was, 100 car lengths on everybody.
Yeah.
And blew up. Well, that thing's sitting in, remember we had those little trailers over there?
Oh yeah, the containers.
He walks in and they're filming it, Japan TV, and he kicks that thing across the room. And then people were like, "Oh, no
yes.
good."
They
"Oh,
were,
you're a bad man."
Emperor's head.
Yeah. And,
I don't think the Japanese know how to handle this.
They didn't.
Like Robbie Gordon, we walked into a Japanese sushi bar, and before that, we're on the subway, and he's got his feet up on the seat. And, they're just really funny about stuff. He walks into a Japanese sushi bar, and he walks in there with his shoes on and just keeps walking on in. And they're just looking at his feet like, whoa, you're going to take your shoes off.
Oh, we did. We went around in cameras, and we caught a spider in there. And it was Jeff Paxton. You know Jeff?
Yeah, Junior.
Yeah, little Junior. Yeah. Him and I were notorious together. So anyway, he goes, "Hey, I found this spider." And I said, "What?" And it's in our thing. So he said, "Let's capture it." And then we had this big Tupperware deal, and it was the 2 cars thing. Yeah. So we captured them, and then we put them in the freezer to slow them down.
Okay.
And then we went over, and Mark Martin was in his, and we were over there horsing around, and the thing, I mean, I'm telling you, the thing was the size of a softball, and we showed it to the other Japanese people, and they're like, "Oh, no, he bite you." And we're like, "Yeah, he ain't gonna bite us."
Godzilla.
Yeah, right. So we took it, we brought it over to Mark Martin's deal, and he's sleeping on the couch, and we got it over his head, and he lost it. He said, I want both of you out of here, and this and that. So we left, and the little spider was coming alive.
Ultraman.
Yep.
So Paul Rodriguez wants to know, or he wants to make a statement. David, Rachel, Linda, Jenks, they can't respond to the chat, but their son Patrick just got a 6-race package deal next spring at Stafford Springs, Connecticut.
Really?
So I want to wish him the best of luck.
Yeah,
Patrick.
that is
cool.
awesome.
Way to go, Patrick.
Yeah,
Nice
way to
deal.
go, Patrick.
That sponsorship is hard to find. And
You ain't kidding.
it's
I mean, that's
really
why
difficult.
you guys want Jersey Cape Yachts here for doing the
There
TV,
you go,
for the
And-
radio
and
show.
Don't forget about your business in Mooresville, Dirty Boys.
Dirty Boys, that could be a sponsor too. Or
There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
see, Phil threw me in, didn't he?
Yep.
He did.
So he also wants to know if you ever saw Bugsy's Chicken Head Puppet Show.
No, I didn't.
Oh, Paul, you might have to explain what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bugsy is, he liked Bugsy. Paul also says one of Richie Evans' number 61 Pinto modified racers is at the Perrone Motorsports Museum in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. That's his hometown. Paul's at.
Awesome.
So I sent this link to John Bryan, my buddy John Bryan, and he said Dirty Boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Dirty Boys, it is. It's, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear all those old stories, you know?
Yeah.
Best part of it all.
Well, on our spider thing, Earnhardt ended up killing it on us. And,
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because we froze him.
Yeah.
Again, or slowed him down, and we had him. We kept doing it, and he said, "Don't bring that around me again."
Spider's got to go.
Yeah, and we were like, "What's your problem?" And next thing you know, we go in the freezer and we put him in there, to calm him down again, and come out and he's smashed on the table.
Oh yeah.
We go, "You smashed our spider." He goes, "What did I tell you guys?"
Yeah. I remember
dead.
Earnhardt the first year, I guess it was. That's when Rusty at Suzuka Circuit, Rusty ran really good.
Yeah.
And then the last year, Earnhardt was in the Coke car, if I'm not mistaken. Him and Junior.
Yeah.
They both had a Coke
Right.
cars.
Yeah, I think it was Earnhardt and Rusty, because Rusty had, that bad race, and then Earnhardt had a bad race, and they just somehow got a helicopter, and they were out of there.
Yeah.
And I was like, "See you guys."
Yeah.
You know.
That's
Got a
it.
favorite track? You like all the tracks you've been to?
Well, I used to love Bristol, and I loved Rockingham, but it's like they're changing them, and they changed Rockingham, and it's like, man, kind of leave it alone, would you?
Now, I saw somewhere they said there was going to be some kind of race at Rockingham next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they're
I saw
doing the
that.
dirt at Bristol.
Right.
That's going to be pretty cool. Remember when they went there with the sprint cars with Sammy Swindell, and it's like, holy cow, people are looking to get somebody killed.
Yeah, really, with that much banking and stuff. Yeah, so
I had heard something about that rumor about Rockingham, too.
yeah, I have to go find the article.
Well,
I didn't
didn't-
read it. I didn't have time, but
What's his name? Andy owned that for a while, right?
yeah,
Andy
Hillenberg.
Hillenberg, yeah.
Does he still?
I don't know.
Because I know he was running a driving school or something out of it.
I don't know. Somebody check that out for us if you got time here.
Yep.
Yeah,
If
there
you would.
Find
And Dawn mentioned me writing a book again, so she's going to help me with that, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been talking about that for many, many, many years, but now.
Are you going to write a truthful book of NASCAR? See, I hope everybody saw that on camera.
Maybe not. But yeah, so we had this play here in Statesville. This goes into the whole acting thing, and I do this maybe not because that was part of my play. So, but so I just say that whenever I'm not sure if I should tell the answer.
Well,
if
That
it's
was a
truth or
dramatic
not.
gaze.
Somebody,
So I do that. Yes.
other people have told me, they said they were going to write one, and they said they had to make sure they were totally away from NASCAR
Yes.
and out of it.
Right. That's
I got the cover for
That's
a book
true.
anytime you want to do one. I got the cover.
I'm just waiting for the drive-by shootings to come by here.
yeah.
No, that protest outside breaks up in about a half hour. So, Bob,
Yeah, they're
we
only
always
paid
have
till
one
about
question in honor of the beer man. Yep, see, look at that.
Oh yeah.
What's your best Sterling Marlin story?
We almost forgot that.
I'm telling you.
Beerman joined in with us.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sterling was big, and you told me I could say this before, but
Yeah.
he used to come by our trailer and bring the porn of the week. And he would bring movies in every week, and he was like a little kid. And he would come running in and say, "You ain't going to believe what I got this time." And I there's no way I can say it on air about some of it, but I was like, holy cow, dude, you
Yes.
got some big ones.
Yeah, he was a piece
Way
of
to
work.
go, Phil. I don't even want to know where you got that.
Oops, I forgot to switch the camera off of Phil before he did it.
Oh, that was good.
Wouldn't that have been something if I had the camera still on him
And
accidentally?
he did that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of, I don't know if my son-in-law is still on, but he
Me?
does stupid things like that.
Well, after this, now we need also I would request your best Brian Scott story. Maybe in a hunting blind.
It would be. There's a
Idaho.
couple of them that he has done to me. We have a great relationship, and him and I are always very competitive, and we're always battling or fighting. When I say fighting, my daughter has a fit because him and I are wrestling and going at it.
Yeah.
We're hunting one day last year, duck hunting, and he basically attacks me in my duck blind. It's all corn cobs, and he just flattened the thing. And the other guy that's with him is one of their accountants, and he says, "What is wrong with the two of you?" And Brian just,
Yeah.
yep,
about
we're in
that?
ghillie suits and
Normal.
Yes.
yeah, and
Very
it's
cool.
This is what it is, and
Yeah.
so
So Brian came to our Bible study. It's been about 3 years ago, and now I'm remembering now, and I think it may have been. I'm not sure if that was Nick Terry or Nick Terry's going to be on with me next week.
really,
Yep,
Cool.
sure is. So that'll be good. So y'all stay tuned for that
Yeah.
next Monday night. MRO is a pastor or preacher.
Yeah.
Nick Terry, former Jackman.
Yep.
But anyway, so yeah, Brian Scott was in there, but he was, I guess, retiring from NASCAR, and he was just going to spend more time with family and stuff
and that's
like
what
that.
he did. Well,
So-
they have a big business out there and a few companies and stuff, and I think it's just time that I think he's going to be revolving and taking it over, and it's they have a lot of properties and stuff, so it's he's a good kid. He just
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so Scott, did that answer your question? Please ask Bob if he has any Sterling Morning stories yet.
that was it. Well, I mean, the one where he was tugging on the fender.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I go, what are you? Get back in the car, dude. You know?
Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know what happened, but I'll tell you right now, I got to fix it. And that means I'm getting out of the car.
Yeah, Sterling was a mess, man. He was always such a great guy to work for. Well, you know, he wouldn't get really excited, but he would whenever he would try to call other drivers' names and stuff like that, he would always come up with the funniest stuff.
Right.
So he would say something, and we would just kind of look at each other and just start laughing or whatever.
Rusty
you
would do
know.
the same thing.
Yeah.
We're like,
Now he said a lot of cuss words.
Rusty? Yeah, Phil and I were talking about that earlier. That's all we needed is all of us on it together. And
Yeah.
But
I don't know how he gets away on the radio or TV.
No.
Not a word.
well, they had a little shop. Stephen, they is building these chopper or these Harley Davidson motorcycle things now, and they had an opening for it. And Rusty was actually pleasant around everybody else. And I was like, man. And as soon as people are kind of walking away, he starts throwing it out there again, and it's
Kind of like here in the next 15 minutes when you go off air.
yeah.
Did you, Did you ever hear the Jumbo and Billy skits where they would talk about Rusty Wallace and then they would say every other word was like bleep,
Beep, beep,
bleep,
beep, yeah.
bleep, bleep, bleep. And then they do the word Bert, and it was always I wish I could do a good word
Yeah,
Bert.
I do
but,
too.
man,
Can't you? Isn't it hard to believe they're him and Jeff from the same family?
Right.
And it's like,
yeah, they talk.
were you raised in a different house?
Right.
Ward, my favorite Ward Burton story, if I have a second.
Would.
Sure.
It was the first hospitality I ever shot, photograph for Caterpillar. And it was with Bill Davis Racing, and it happened to be the same weekend Ward had got his walking papers in the mail. And it was on a golf cart ride out with Bill and Ward and the PR person. And I'm sitting there first time, I want to do everything right and be low-key and quiet. And I'm riding out, and we get to the hospitality event, and the guy that greets opens up the gate so we could drive the golf cart in, and he says, "Hey, Ward, how's it going?" Real perky. And Ward says, "I feel like a freshly beeped pig." And I'll never forget it. And Bill Davis just kind of rolled his eyes up in the air and shook his head, and we went into the tent, and I was indoctrinated.
Right.
On trucking talk, remember passing a Shelby shipping? R.D. Ford wants to know.
I don't know. I don't.
You didn't finish it here, R.D.
You do know I'm older, right? I don't remember a lot of things that.
Yeah.
On the trucking talk, remember passing a Shelby shipping bus, maybe?
I don't know. One thing, I passed a lot of trucks. Everybody used to go.
Sure.
We're gonna run with Bob, and
Explain that for us. That what it's like when you guys are all mass.
well, we gotta
Do
get
they
home.
do that still, or is it?
Well, I think now they have so many drivers and backup drivers and everything. And back when we were doing it, it's like that was it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was, you had to get home from Texas, and you were gonna see you in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. I had one Texas state trooper one time pulled me over, and I was running a little over 100, and I seen him coming. I'm like, this is gonna be bad. And I just pulled over, and he comes flying across the thing with his pickup. It never dawned on me, and he's license, registration, your logbook. I'm like, all right. He goes, come down here. So I get in the truck with him, and I'm sitting there, and he's going down through everything in the logbook, and logbook was fake anyway because you worked all day.
Right.
And he goes, huh? He says, so you've been at a hotel all this time? And I said, yeah. And he says, man, I could have swore I saw you on TV gassing that race car. And I'm like, I go, I'll be right back. And we were sponsored by Oakley and all of this. I go down, I grab Oakley glasses and come back. I said, hey, man, I don't know if you guys wear sunglasses or anything. And he goes, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So then he's sitting there going, he goes, do you know how fast you were going? And I said, well, I really don't. And he said, how do you not know? And I said, well, speedometer goes to 80. I said, it wasn't there. And I said, we had to get home. And he says, do you know that I could? I go, I'll be right back. I'm like, man. So I go back in the truck, and we had mechanics wear with our sponsor. So I grabbed all these mechanics wear gloves and hats, and bringing them all out. And I'm like, man, there ain't much left after this. And the guy, I go, hey, I go, do you guys wear? And the guy goes, yeah. So I throw him in his truck, and he's sitting there, and he says, do you know that if I write you up, you won't be leaving here tomorrow until 8 o'clock at night? And I said, holy cow. I said, I'll be right back, man. And I go back in there, and I get autographs and everything that Rusty had, and a pair of Rusty gloves. Well, I was like, I was going to give him Rusty's fire suit. I mean, that thing had to be home.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like doing all of this, and the guy's sitting there, and he's looking at me, and he says, well, here's everything. And I turn around, and I look, and in the back of this little extended cab pickup he has, he's got a 2 Rusty Wallace sticker.
Oh, yeah. How about that?
And I go, are you a Rusty fan? He goes, yeah. He goes, really? I was pulling you over just because I thought it would be. And he goes, and you just kept giving me stuff. And I said, can I go? And he says, well, I know you'll be out of the state of Texas by the time I get done with that coffee. I'm going to that truck stop. He says, you have a good day. And I said, we'll see you.
That's cool.
And I'm like, man, dude.
Yeah.
Could have told me that before I emptied the
I
truck.
know, right? That was going to be my question. I was going to ask if you kept a bunch of hats.
Always. You know that. We kept, and I mean, it's kind of, I don't even know how to say the system, but weigh scales. You know, we'd all go into Florida. Man, them guys would push those other trucks out of the way, and it got to the point where I would just pitch them out the window.
Yeah.
The scale guy would be standing out there for hats, and I wouldn't even slow. You know, you're coming across the scale, so you're 20 or 30, but I just go, here you go, dude.
Right.
Oh, thanks, man. You know, we go to Watkins Glen. They set up a scale thing there on the side of a road.
Just for you guys.
Just for hats. And I'm like, all you got to do is ask.
Right.
You know,
That's cool.
Man, don't stop us.
Yeah, I remember riding with the Hard Times,
Yeah.
the Schweitz, and we were coming through McBee, and there was always, you know, like a traffic, whatever, speed trap.
You had to be careful.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he was just handing out some hats to the cops.
You know,
out
well,
there.
Virginia would always give us a ticket, no matter what. And we're always overweight. You know, everybody goes, oh, those guys don't haul. And I'm like, we're overweight everywhere we go. And, you know, you just, you know, the Penske thing, get the ticket, let's go.
Yeah.
And, you know, up there, one guy wrote me a ticket, and he goes, hey, man, you don't have any hats, do you? I said, you just gave me a ticket.
Yeah.
I said, no, I ain't got no hats.
Yes.
Did we discuss
right.
the 100-mile-an-hour on here, or was that private? Did you tell the folks about the 100-mile uphill?
Yeah, I just told him that.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we said it before or after.
Yeah. Geez, Phil.
So
Sugar rush from the sucker.
Yeah, that's right. Scott Trevison's asking, how about a legendary Jerry Schweitz story?
Jerry. Everybody was all Jerry. Is he still around or anything?
Well, I was
Big Jerry.
His brothers. I was with his 2 brothers because we're from the same hometown, Jerry and I, and McLaughlin. And then his 2 brothers were with me this weekend, and they said he just kind of hanging at the farm, you know.
Yep.
He drives a dump truck once in a while. He's just kind of laid back, you know.
Yeah, because he basically lost his job over at Sabco or Ganassi.
Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of who knows what.
Yeah.
Well,
He was part time there at the end, anyways, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But he was a good guy. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
It was probably just they were ready to move on and do something
Right.
else. and
Well, now
kinda
I
the way
guess
it
the
was.
whole thing is, I was talking to people today, and basically as soon as the planes were landing, coming home, people were getting canned.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, it never used to be like that when we were.
Right.
I mean, it's.
Yeah.
You know, they're telling them I remember one year hearing all the Childress guys fire all of their guys, you know, as they're going to get ready to get on the airplane to head home.
Yeah, how about that?
You know, we're
It's
not going
crazy.
to, you guys aren't going to work anymore. And you're not, you make too much money.
It's changed the times
It
for
is.
sure. It's definitely
know,
changed so much.
It's always been called what, Black Monday.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, if I could make the money Phil makes, you know, photography,
Yeah,
you and I could probably retire.
You're in the dark on that.
I mean, you don't own an island, do you?
No,
No,
I
Phil
don't have
does.
an island in Canada
No.
or anywhere.
Yeah,
that-
that's what I said. Phil's got
Anyways, about that Jerry Schweitz story.
Yeah, so she said, Bearman says he still has Jerry's number. Yes.
cool.
Yeah, we'll have to get him. Maybe I should get him on the show sometime.
You
That'd
should.
be
I got money. He will not come out.
No.
Jerry's not going to come out here.
good. Probably not.
He'll look at you and go,
Yeah.
Good guy. Great guy.
Danny says, I just sit and laugh when him and Brian go at it.
Yeah, my daughter.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one problem with that is you're teaching your grandson to do that too.
My grandkids are awesome. That's probably
Yes,
the only
they
reason
are.
I really like my son-in-law.
Beautiful kids.
I missed this comment earlier. Mike Bear says when Sterling called Biffle a bug-eyed dummy. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff Sterling would say.
Right.
You see that big-eyed dummy? He about ran me off the track or something, you know, and it's like, okay. Instead of going on rants, cussing rants and stuff, you know, like.
No, who was your favorite Cup driver as a young man growing up? Did you have one, or were you just into the modified drivers?
No, I mean, we didn't really. Cup racing wasn't that big. I think like Lenny Pond was a big one, and I through Armin knew him, and Bobby Allison.
Yeah.
You know, it's like those guys were the bomb, man. They were it, and you know those like the one where what is it? Him and Kyle or Cale Yarborough are fighting. Is that who?
Yeah.
The one who
Daytona
fighting?
79.
Donnie and Bobby.
Yeah.
1979 Daytona 500.
Yeah. Still see Bobby. He's around town all the time.
Yep. Cracker Barrel.
And you know, and it's a shame because there's a lot of people that, you know, we have that NASCAR tech there, and these kids don't even know who these people are.
I've been saying that should be a class there. They at least need to learn the history of NASCAR, and they need to pass it with an A.
Well,
they should already know it if they're wanting to get into NASCAR.
When I was at DEI, one of my jobs, you know, I was hiring people, you know, for different things, and I had a picture of Richie Evans and something else on my desk, and those kids would come in, and it got to the point where NASCAR had said, you guys have to start hiring these people.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't know anything.
Right.
And, you know, it's a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. And these kids would come in, and they're sitting there, and they go, you know, I go, hey, do you know who this is? Uh-uh.
Right.
And I'm like, man, dude. And the one kid, his name's Zach Price. I ran into him probably a couple months ago. He changed his tires on the 22. He was the kid that got hit at Indy.
Yeah.
But he came up to me, and we were in a bar. I know it's hard to believe, but anyway, we're in a bar, and he says, I don't know if you remember me. He goes, you hired me. And I said, yeah. And he came from the NASCAR tech. And the kid was like, man, that is a cool car.
Yeah.
Was one of his first things he said. And I go, that's Richie Evans. And that's, you know, we start talking about it. Right. And just his interest in racing. And I said, dude, I'll find something for you to do. And we started him doing the pit practice car.
Yeah.
And the kid ended up, he didn't think he was making enough money, long story short. And I said, stick with it, and you're going to this. And he ended up saying something to me a couple months ago. He goes, man, if I would have quit then, he goes, I wouldn't have had this. He goes, I make great money. I do this and that. And then he got hit at Indy. I'm like, I wonder if he's still thanking me for this.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like me. I grew up in, I was actually born a couple miles from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then my grandparents lived down there off of Moore's Head Road and right near the Speedway. So I always grew up being around racing. I remember going in the 70s at some point. I was born in 71. So I remember going to the track. But my favorite driver was David Pearson, and then later on Cale Yarborough.
Yeah.
But I remember, you know, and that was like kindergarten. I remember that far back being a big race fan. And so I just grew up breathing, sleeping, wrestling and racing kind of thing in Charlotte.
You know, but they don't teach. Well, look I mean, we could go into that a whole nother show about the politics. You know, they don't teach kids history anymore. You know, what I was saying to you about your bullet here, the Civil War bullet.
Right.
Man, that's, you know, now you ask kids about it, they have no idea.
Yeah. And it wouldn't mean nothing to them.
No.
That's like, oh, what is that? Okay, well, Civil War, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. And I sit there and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, how did they have that in a casing, or how did they do this? You know, but
mini ball.
Yeah,
that's what it's called. And I've got some of these that they actually. We're talking about Civil War bullets now. We could talk all night, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
I've got some that actually have teeth mark in them, and I'll tell you why. Because what they would do is whenever they would have to, let's say, cut off a limb, you know, in the field, they would give them a bullet to bite the bullet, and they would chew on it, and then they would just take the bullet and throw it in the same hole where they buried with the bones or whatever.
Wow.
So, you know, 100 years later, people are out metal detecting, and they find these, but they, you know, the bones might be disintegrated by then, but whatever.
That's cool.
So there's bullets with
awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a little bit of a Civil War history there.
Phil's over there thinking about something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was, but
you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So anybody got any more questions? Throw them out here right now because we're about to wrap it up because we're actually running out of time.
No, not really.
No, not my family. Keep them out of it.
What is there any driver that you see out there now that you think has huge promise in the future? Or,
Well, besides Kyle Busch.
Chase.
Yeah.
Congratulations
But
to
Chase,
Chase
you know,
Elliott,
I think that's great that played out the way it did. Just, it's not like when we did it. You
Right.
know, there's now you got computers in these cars that, and I'm I guess, conspiracy person, but you can manipulate everything.
Yeah. Right.
And it's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of them coming up. I mean, man, I'm just more Tony Stewart type people. And
Have you got a good Jimmy Johnson story?
no, I really don't, except, I mean, well, yeah, but I can't say that.
Well, then tell us the Tony one.
No, I can't say that. I don't want Tony after me over any of these.
I'm gonna save my Jimmy Johnson stuff for next week because I'll have Nick Terry in here, and I know he's good friends with Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Jimmy in a long time, but yeah. So RD says that's great history, David. I don't have my glasses on, so sometimes it's like a little bit hard. You know how that goes. So but yeah. Well, so thanks everybody for tuning in, and
Thanks for having me too.
And we'll have thank you so much for coming up here all the way from Mooresville, I guess.
Oh, way
right?
up there. Well, Phil gave such great directions. I was down there by the riot protest.
I know. And I said that's the second time he gave that.
Well, you know,
'Cause,
And he's telling me that. He says, you're a bunch of idiots out there marching around. And I'm like, I don't see them, Phil. They're right in front of me. And I'm like, Phil, I don't see them.
yes, there you go. So, all right. So, thanks everybody for tuning in, and check out my website, DHammiam.com. And of course, I do this every Monday night, and we'll have another guest next week. I'm going to have Nick Terry from MRO, former Jackman, but he does MRO, Motor Racing Outreach, and he goes into Roush Yates engines and
Great
a lot of
program.
different places. Yeah, it is great. It's been around since Max Hilton back in the
they
day.
actually, he married me. Well,
Did he?
That sounds weird, Phil. But,
Yeah, right.
yeah, he did. He did it on a Saturday, and I left for Daytona the next morning.
Yeah.
And we were gone. When we used to have to go down there for 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
But,
yes.
Yeah.
So I had MRO back whenever I worked in Sabco. It was my first experience with MRO. Whenever and they would come in, and I was like, "What is this? We got Bible study." Well, I thought that was really cool. You know? They would come in and do Bible study right there in the race shop, and then we have a haircut girl come in.
Yep, we did. Yeah, we did that. And
we should do another show sometime and talk about all the way things are changed over the years in racing.
Yeah,
but
get a few people together and just.
But I was going to say too, Chase Elliott, he won this championship. He's 24 years old. He'll be 25 November 28th.
Mm-hmm.
I started in NASCAR in 19, and when I was 24 years old. So the same year, and that's the same year he was born.
Yeah.
When I went through my first full race season in 95.
Isn't it something?
The year that he was born. Yes.
I worked with his mom before they were even a thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah, remember Cindy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could talk about that. We could talk about all the ones that were. All the waitresses that were at Stock Car Cafe that became drivers' wives.
That's right. Yes, I remember Jimmy Johnson's girlfriend that rode around at the racetracks with him.
Yep.
And now he's married to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
And of course Brooke Gordon.
Brooke Gordon. I was just going to bring her
And anyways,
Yes.
we'd like to thank Jersey Cape Yachts for tonight.
for being a proud sponsor. We'll be sending an invoice.
Yes. Now, see, if I got a sponsor, I'll be mentioning them like several times.
I'm telling you,
throughout
we
the
could
show.
do this,
We'll
right?
get a backdrop.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We're going to get, a boat.
Because I mean, basically, I do this for the love. I love the sport, and
But you
I love
need to pay the bills too.
history. But yeah, it
I'll
would
work
be-
on that.
Yeah,
I'll
so
say
pass
something
it
to her.
on to your friends and stuff. David needs the
Yeah.
exposure and sponsorship.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all. So Dawn says, awesome show, y'all. Artie says, please forgive my spelling. Artie does have an issue with spelling. I don't know if it's like spell check or whatever, but I don't know. I go through that all the time with him. I have to
I have that
decipher
too.
when he sends me messages. Jana and Scott both said, great show. Dickie says, enjoyed the stories, Mr. Tracey. And Paul says, did Bob know? And then Dawn says, Max Helton, ? Miss Jackie, ?
Nat Chevatone from Senecac.
Mike Helton, did I mean?
Max
he was saying
Helton.
Max Helton.
Max Helton was
Wasn't
MRO.
Max
Yeah,
one of the
okay.
preachers?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think Miss Jackie. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Jackie Pegram.
She ran the MRO stuff at the
Yeah,
track for the
she's a
kids.
sweetheart.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yep. Awesome. My
We
daughter
gotta
and
get her in here because I got
Brian.
her on Facebook. She's still around.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
got a lot of things going on.
There you go, Dawn. Good call there.
Paul Rodriguez wanted to know if you knew Nat Chevatone from Seknok, Mass.
Seekonk.
Built engines.
Seekonk. I've heard of them.
Fuel oil to the shop and homes.
Yeah. Don't really know them personally. I've heard of them. You know.
Yep. Fantastic.
All right. Very cool.
Cool.
Thanks again for coming in.
Thanks for having me, man.
And hopefully we'll get you back on some other time.
Yeah.
And we had a good
put something
time
together.
And thanks everybody for watching. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we'll